Ag Matters is underwritten by Ag West Farm Credit. Ag West Farm Credit is a financial cooperative that provides financing, crop insurance, and related services to farmers and ranchers across the West. From small family businesses to large operations, Ag West brings the experience and financial know-how to help you grow your best future.
Welcome to Ag Matters, covering positive agriculture stories from across Alaska on Big Cabbage Radio.
Hello, everybody. You're listening to Ag Matters. I'm your host, Ken Hoffman. I'm a farmer in Palmer. My little farm is called Matsu Microgreens, and I'm also a director in the Alaska Farm Bureau. I'm the executive director, and it's a really fun organization to be a part of and to network with other farmers. But today, we have a friend of mine who's the executive director of another agricultural nonprofit. So, Tara, thanks for calling in today.
Thanks, Ken. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, you've been on the show before, so it's great. And for those who didn't listen to that episode, if you wouldn't mind doing a short introduction about yourself and the organization you work for.
Sure. I work for the Alaska Farmers Market Association, and I am living in Anchorage, mother of 2 kids, and excited about market season this summer. I've been with the Farmers Market Association for about 6 months, joined Claire Marshallek, my colleague. We're a 2-person team, and we are really working hard to keep food access programs alive for the state of Alaska.
Awesome. Well, tell us about that.
Yeah, well, you may know that we have 65 farmers markets across the state of Alaska. I found that pretty exciting when I accepted the job last fall, and many of them are, of course, in the Anchorage and Matsu area, but many are not. Lots are off the road system and in our native communities or in really rural places, and that's so exciting because they're such a point of fresh food, healthy food access for those communities. And not just because the food tastes better and is great and fresh, but because people are buying it from farmers, and there's that community feeling of gathering together and knowing each other and sharing something special. So we see farmers markets as a vehicle for all kinds of good things in Alaska.
Cool. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I asked to have a chance to talk today because we have had some really successful pilot programs that made the markets more accessible for people. One was called the Market Match, where we were able to double people's dollars at the farmers markets up to $40 a week all summer if people had a SNAP card. We had special incentives for WIC and senior benefits holders. And then there was something really cool called the Local Food Purchasing Assistance Program, which I'm sure you know about, Ken, that the USDA funded. That was basically like a farm to food banks kind of model, where at the end of the market day, the market manager could buy back the produce from all of the farmers who wanted to sell what they had remaining, protein, produce, whatever, and make donations to local anti-hunger organizations. And that was a wildly successful project. We had $314,000 worth of food purchased in 2 years from 39 farmers at 10 farmers markets across Alaska and donated to 22 local food banks. And that was amazing. And the SNAP Match program has also been really successful in its pilot. It's seen a 272% increase in SNAP redemptions at the market. So both of those programs brought a lot of momentum to food access across Alaska, and they are both in their final year this season. So I wanted to say that out loud just so people can take advantage of those programs as much as possible, and to invite your listeners to think together with you and me about how we can keep this momentum going. And there are already some really neat things, some like pay-as-you-can incentive programs, some mutual aid, a little bit of private funding. There's a program in Anchorage funded by the municipal alcohol tax dollars that are all trying to get at this same thing, like how can we make farmers markets work for everybody? And so, yeah, I thought maybe we could chat about that a little bit today.
Awesome. Yeah.
Should I just keep saying statistics?
Yeah, that sounds great to me.
Well, I would like to share that while the Local Food Purchasing Assistance Program is definitely over, like canceled by the USDA over, the state of Alaska does have in their hands right this second a request that we continue for another allocation of money to keep Market Match going. So I'm so grateful to representatives like Calvin Schrage, who represents me, and some of the representatives up in Fairbanks. Ashley Carrad brought it to the floor to see if we can get some more state of Alaska funding for this program. So we requested $750,000 over 5 years. We're right now in the operating budget at $300,000, which wouldn't be as long a runway as we had hoped in order to sort of figure out how to diversify that funding, but at least it's something. It's definitely something. And so if that passes, doesn't get vetoed when the governor gets the budget, then we will be able to keep that program going and we'll be able to bring more market into the fold. But we're, fingers crossed at this point. I think once the budget is in conference committee, you just hold your breath and hope. Those legislators have been working so hard. I know session has been long and busy. It was lots of fun to go with you, Ken, to Food Security Week back in February when we had all those meetings with the Farm Bureau and the Farmers Market Association and the Alaska Food Coalition, just to talk about hunger in our state and how farmers can play a role as the state looks at ways to address that.
Yep. No, that was a good trip.
Yeah. So this summer, if people want to get out and enjoy the SNAP Market Match or go places where they know that the local food program is happening, the LFPA program, the markets are Homer, Canada Valley and Fairbanks, Southside and Fairbanks, Grow North Farm in Anchorage, Muldoon Community Farmers Market in Anchorage, Matanuska Community Farmers Market in Palmer, the Salt and Soil Marketplace in Juneau, E&A Produce in Iliamna, and then farm stands in both Kasilof and Kodiak.
Awesome. Exciting. That's where people should be shopping then.
Yeah, I hope so. And Edible Alaska is going to run this month. If you go and grab your free copy of Edible Alaska, it's their 10th anniversary edition, and they're going to have our updated statewide farmers market directory for the coming season. So Claire and I had lots of fun in March calling every single farmers market in Alaska to ask how they're doing, how we can support them, if they're going to be active and open in 2026. And then those markets are listed and they have a SNAP authorization asterisk, not just if they're SNAP authorized, which is the ones that I just named, but even if they have farmers who are SNAP authorized, so that some stands at the market would accept your SNAP benefits. And that's a much larger list. And so I would encourage people to go grab that copy of Edible because the directory will be in there, along with an awesome op-ed from Brandy Jo Nyberg, who's a farmer out in Palmer, and she's on the board with me, and she's written about female farmers because we have so many in Alaska. 48% of our farmers are women, and it is the United Nations International Year of the Woman Farmer 2026. So lots of good, attention coming to those women across the world. And so there's a special article about what farming in Alaska looks like from Brandy Jo's perspective in that magazine as well.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, I think that's all I've got for now. I mean, I feel like the farmers markets have all kinds of exciting reasons to shop there, whether food access programs are going to bring people out or whether it's the music or the farmers or the activities for kids. There are a couple of markets that are really making an effort to gather community members this summer. Brandy Jo's Market in Palmer, which is in the Matanuska Community Farmers Market, and then that Southside Market in Fairbanks, which is run by the Calypso Farm and Ecology Center. They both have mutual aid programs that allow you to either donate or receive coupons to make market shopping more affordable. And then they're going to have community meal at the market gatherings where they're going to cook from the fresh food with volunteer chefs and invite anybody who wants to sit down for a meal to share a meal together. In Southside, it happens every week, and they have up to 300 people come to their weekly community meal. So I'm planning to get up there this summer and enjoy that.
Awesome. So who does the cooking for the community meal?
Breadline, the local food bank there run by Hannah Hill. So they've got chefs, and they've got a grant that helps pay for it. And I know they were volunteer chefs. I'm not sure if they're paid at this point, but it's definitely people who know how to turn that fresh food into something glorious.
So they go and shop the market and then they cook it up?
Yeah, right there at the market. Just end of market day, what's there to shop from, and then, let people kind of see what you would do with some of the things that might be less common at your own dinner table. And then just, the feeling of sitting down with your neighbors to share a meal and the bounty of Alaska summertime. So that's the idea.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So how many farmers markets do we have in the state of Alaska? You might have already said that, but...
Well, we had 65, and when I just called everybody in March, we're sort of still determining that number, which might sound like it's so simple. How could we not know? But we had 21 markets closed since 2 years ago when Claire and I made these calls, Claire made the calls, and that was real hard to hear. Some of those reasons are it was really hard to come back from COVID. Some markets are having trouble recruiting and retaining their farmers just because it's a lot of work for farmers to leave the farm and get to the market, even though there's so many rewards if there are a whole bunch of markets just on Saturday, for example, they kind of have to choose where to go. And then we had just some aging market managers or volunteer market managers. A lot of times farmers markets are run by volunteers. And so there's just some volatility there and whether people can pull it off year over year. But Claire and I were relentless in calling communities. When a market was closed, we called everybody to see who was going to pick it up. Is there a possibility it will still happen? Has it combined with something else so that there is still fresh food access? And we did find 8 new markets opening for the first time this year. From Hoona and Anchor Point to Nome, there are new markets to celebrate. So we will have a final count of markets in this edition. So I think it's going to be in the sort of mid-50s. But we also have lots of farm stands that sell retail, and we have other ways that consumers can engage in the local produce world. And we like to define farmers markets as broadly as possible. In the lower 48, there's sort of a more strict definition because there's more food access. But here we want to just say anybody who's selling to consumers, anybody who's doing this for their community counts. And in that way, we can count in our community-supported agriculture, CSA subscriptions, and then some new food access on the forefront. Food is Medicine, which is a produce prescription program. So people who are suffering from chronic disease or at risk for chronic disease, there are now 4 or 5 points across the state where you could be eligible for getting a box of produce as a prescription. So AFMA is working hard to make sure local food is a part of that and that our farmers are seen as partners in that journey as we think about how we could grow more food for those health needs. We know that the state health department just put out numbers that only 8% of Alaskans get their required daily fruit and vegetables. Well, recommended, not required. Mm-hmm. And so there's just all kinds of leverage points, where local food and farmers can show up and support health for the state. But I will have a final number of how many farmers markets exist in 2026 for you very shortly. We're just getting the final kind of numbers in from people as they decide how 2026 season is going to look.
Yep. And where would you be posting that number? Are you guys doing a new handout publication, or is this be on your guys' website?
That's right, both. So I'll have hard copy prints of the statewide directory. I'll be out at markets all summer, so will Claire, and also market managers can just call and order those from us, and then they can have a booth at their market that talks about the statewide work. So we'll have them in print. They will get posted in that Edible Alaska magazine that's free, that shows up kind of like at restaurants and tourist spots around the state. And then our website will be kept up to date, and it'll have more than just the markets that get printed in the directory. It'll have all of the access points for fresh food in the state, and that's my project right now. So first getting the directory out in print, then getting it updated online. And actually that's something that your listeners can help me with, because if you pop on to the AFMA website and you don't see yourself listed there, but you are selling to consumers, then you can click on a little button and add your information, and you'll show up as a dot on the map. And if you want me to do it for you, you just call me up and talk me through it. And, there are 558 entries in the Alaska Grown directory. And, of course, all those people aren't direct to consumer, but many of them have farm stands. And it's tricky for me to go through all of that and make sure it's updated. But if you would like your information to show up on the Alaska Farmers Markets Association website, then we would love to have you.
That's great. Besides that project, do you have any other projects that you're working on this summer? Any events that AFMA is putting on, or any online webinars? I know you guys have done things like that in the past.
Yeah, thanks for asking. We are wrapping up our online webinars with the spring because we know people get so busy in the summer. Our market managers are, kind of our main members, and they're about to be busy. But we will re-engage in the fall with different programming and ways that people can learn more and support AFMA. And this summer, I am excited just to get out to the markets. So Claire and I call it Meet Me at the Market, and we will be at lots of different places across the state, and we'll keep a blog of our market experiences. So our website will have pictures and video clips and, what happened at the different markets across the state while we were volunteering. I'd love for our representatives, our state and local representatives, to come with me to the market. I think it's a really fun way to show your support for local food. And, funders, if people are interested, I think there's a real opportunity for our Alaska businesses is to underwrite programs like farm to food banks. I don't think it needs to go away because we don't have federal funding. So if people want to get out there with me, I think our telecoms, our banks, our foundations, our individuals, like we can raise money to keep this going and make sure that the farmers can kind of be relieved of that burden of over harvesting, make it worth it for them to come to market and then get that fresh food to people who need it at the end of the day if they weren't able to purchase it directly. So anybody who's curious about that, who'd like to join me for a market visit or want, information about where you might have a local market that you could support, I'll be active and reachable all summer as I get out and travel around.
That's great. Do you have a calendar posted of where you guys will be and what market so that people can look forward to that and maybe meet you at the market?
Oh, I love that idea. I don't, but if you think I should, if somebody other than my kids will come along, I would love it. Yeah, I can definitely do that. Maybe I'll pop into my blog and not just share where I've been, but, where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, anybody is welcome to do the same, join in on Meet Me at the Market. You'll probably be selling at a market this summer. Is that still true for you, Ken?
I'll be at the South Anchorage Farmers Market. Yep.
Which is already open.
Yes. Yeah, we're already meeting, and we've had 2 Saturdays. It's been a little chilly, but it's been a lot of fun. And there's quite a few customers that show up in the almost winter time weather, but it's been great.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's so fun. I love that that South Market opens early. And then Pennant Park in Anchorage is already open as well. And we've got a lot of opening days coming up here soon. So that will also be on our website, opening days. And the Anchorage Farmers Market is celebrating their 25th anniversary there at that Cordova and 15th parking lot. It's in the Lutheran Church parking lot in Anchorage, and they're really stepping in where the food desert that the closing of the Cars Safeway in Fairview created, where that space is opened up. And there's a lot of interesting stuff going on down there. There's like some gleaning and some meals and some trying to make sure that like nothing goes to waste in those community gardens. So that's exciting to see the people stepping into that, that food desert space. But I don't yet know when the 25th anniversary party will be, but I know Kathy Freeman, who runs that market, has it in mind. And sometime in July, we'll be celebrating. She says great. That makes them the second longest running farmers market in the state, second to Tanana Valley in Fairbanks, which is 50 years plus at this point.
Wow. Well, that's great. So how can people that are doing direct-to-consumer sales or running a farmer's market, how can they get involved with the Farmers Market Association? Do you guys have a membership? Do you guys have meetings? How can people get involved?
Yeah, so we have a membership button. If you just hop on our website, you'll see that you can become a member. We send out a newsletter every 6 weeks that lets people know what we know about what's going on in the market world, farmers market world. Sometimes it's partner events, like you and I were in Palmer last month with Farmland Trust to talk about local food in the Mat-Su or the Food Security Week in Juneau. Sometimes it's an upcoming opportunity for like support from AFMA or support getting SNAP authorized. All kinds of things. So become a member, get on my newsletter list. If you are directly managing a market, then I have an even sort of smaller list that's just a Google group. It's like when I know something that's going to affect our market managers, I let them know. And then I really want to be working on regional collaborations and the markets knowing each other and thinking collectively about how to address food security and their part of the state, looking at whether we can spread market days out a little bit or whether we can have access points with mobile markets for people who aren't getting to the market. Or, sometimes we have like festival style markets that really want to center local food, but maybe the times are a lot for a farmer, like they're all day on Saturday and Sunday, and that you have to miss other markets to be there. But maybe you could still have your food at that market if the market manager is interested in promoting local food. There's other ways than having to go yourself. So that's the kind of conversation we start to have once you're a member, and I reach out and say, who wants to hop on a call and talk about, ways that different regions can support each other? One example of that is that the interior markets, they now have a market in Fairbanks 5 days of the week. And then there are more if you sort of extend the interior region out. And they had an event at the library where they had a vending 101. If you're a farmer and you're thinking about vending at one of these markets, here's what you need to know. And here's what you would want to know if you're going to vend at all of them, just to kind of coordinate resources for people. So right now, membership to AFMA does not cost anything. In the past, we've had a fee to help us sustain our work, but at this point, we feel like our work is supporting our members and that, asking for $20 or $50 really doesn't make a difference, and it might be a barrier. So It's just, you just click that, that you don't need to make a donation and that you'd like to be a member. And then, Claire and I basically really hope to grow this work. We're a 2-person team at this point. We've weathered a lot with the loss of USDA funding. And so we hope that we can, diversify our own funding, grow our own resiliency as an organization. AFMA's been around since 2009, but we've only been a 501c3 since 2022, and then the USDA cuts hit. And so this is kind of our year to figure it out. And once we do, we intend to have the kind of membership event that you're asking about, Ken, back on the book, and other things that we can do, other ideas people have, for strengthening our local food system through that vehicle of farmers markets. We really hope to be able to realize more of those kinds of dreams. And in the meantime, we just appreciate our partners so much. We'll be up in Fairbanks for the Food Festival and Conference in October, hosted by the Alaska Food Policy Council and Native Movement. We'll be with you in November for the Ag Symposium in Anchorage. So we just keep showing up and trying to engage people and thinking about our market as something that makes Alaska stronger.
All right. Sounds good. And thank you for bringing up the November conference. And in fact, we should talk more. Maybe if you guys wanted to do a membership event there or something during the conference, we could squeeze that into the schedule. That would be a lot of fun.
That's a great idea because it's such a neat, there's so many producers there last year, just from all over Alaska. I learned so much.
Yep.
To, everybody from grazing sheep to, honeybees to produce. And it was fun to think about what that kind of power of the collective can do. So thanks for that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tara, for calling in, and we'll talk throughout the summer, and hopefully we'll see you at the market.
That sounds great. All right. See you there.
All right. Thank you, Tara. And thank you, everybody, for listening to Ag Matters. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
You've been listening to Ag Matters, covering positive agriculture stories from across Alaska on Big Cabbage Radio. Ag Matters is a production of Radio Free Palmer, recorded at our studios in Palmer, Alaska. For more information about this program, email manager@radiofreepalmer.org.